Welcome to KTAL News Now. I'm Brittany DeFran. LSU History Professor Dr. Alexander Mikaberidze was awarded the Golden Bee, and also known as the Napoleon Polish Honor. Dr. Mikaberidze is honored for his work on translating the Napoleonic Wars global history book. But it doesn't end there. On the heels of the award, Dr. Mikaberidze earned a Fulbright scholar, which took him overseas to conduct research and teach. He joins me now to talk a little bit about these honors. Hi, how are you doing?
Thank you so much. It's still a little bit jet lag from the trip. I returned just yesterday morning.
That's amazing. So I'm so excited to hear about your travels and just, the impact that you're making for putting LSUS Shreveport and the education on a global map. So let's just jump right in and talk a little bit about the Golden Bee honor. Can you tell me a little bit about what that meant for you to earn that award?
It was a surprise. I didn't expect it because the book, I wrote the book for Oxford University Press and it came out in English in 2020. And much to my surprise, it became an international success and it's been translated in several languages. And Polish was one of the most recent translations. And the fact that in this hundreds of titles that are being translated and published, history titles in Poland, that mine was selected as the best Napoleonic title was quite a surprise and honor. So when I got an email from the Polish publisher, I couldn't believe it. I think it's a testament to this new kind of narrative, to the new movement in the field of history that emphasizes transnational comparative history, that kind of tries to connect the dots around the world rather than focus on one particular area or country, and that's what I try to accomplish in this book.
That's amazing. And then, so I was curious to know kind of what inspired you to translate it.
I didn't translate it. This is the thing. I wrote it, but
Yeah.
the publisher translated it, and I
Okay.
worked with the publisher in terms of kind of making sure that the translated text, is close, is reflects the original. My knowledge of Polish is a little bit rusty, but the original idea to write the book was in order to highlight the complexity of history.
Mm-hmm.
As I've noted, oftentimes we think of history in particular regional context or national context. What I try to do in this book is to connect the dots on a global scale, to say that events that are taking place in Europe during the revolution, this is the French Revolution and Napoleonic times, should not be considered in isolation, but rather should be considered in their totality, in this ripple effect that these European events had on a global scale. And when you kind of zoom out of Europe, then you'll realize how interconnected these events are and how an event taking place in Europe, such as, for example, invasion of Spain by Napoleon in 1808, has a ripple effects on the other side of the globe, where you have a beginning of independence movement in Latin America and the creation of independent states that we now are familiar with, like Colombia, Venezuela, Argentina, and Chile. And so the goal was I think, to let the reader really appreciate how complex history is, but also to see the connections, the connections that still are with us today.
No, I appreciate you that for that clarification in regards to, you are the author of the book, and
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
apologize for misspeaking on that. Um,
I would love to translate the book, but my
I mean,
linguistic skills are a little bit challenged. Yeah.
writing it is a big accomplishment in itself. So I'm sure
Thank
you're
you.
extremely proud of that. And when we talk a little bit, you talked a little bit about what readers can take away here. I was curious to ask, if this is something that you've utilized in your teachings at LSUS as well.
Absolutely. And I think this is a good example of kind of the historians or any kind of a scholar who translates the skills, the knowledge that they gain through research, firsthand research in archives and around the world, uh, to bringing that knowledge and experience in the classroom, because I can talk to students on this kind of transnational and comparative history and to show the connections between the events, but I also can tell them from my firsthand experience in terms of doing research in France, in Germany, in Britain, in Georgia, in Austria, and can I tell them this specificity of what to do, how to do it. So my graduate students, I have several students who are now going on to earn PhDs in history. That's kind of the inside look that I can always share with them and give them advice on how to do things or what not to do based on my own experiences. But more importantly, for the undergraduate students, this is I think they gain a wonderful opportunity to talk to a person who tries to kind of look at the world from a more international, from more global point of view. And that hopefully will inform their own understanding of the modern day world.
Absolutely. And you make a really good point and a perfect segue to kind of our next topic. You know, you talk about your personal experience and the opportunity to translate that to your teachings. So let's talk a little bit about the Fulbright Scholar. You were selected as a Fulbright Scholar, so it gave you the opportunity to travel abroad and conduct some in-depth research, but also teach abroad as well. So tell me a little bit about, what that meant for you to be able to take LSUS on a global map.
Oh, it was incredible, both at the personal, from a personal point of view, but also institutional point of view. I think this is the first Fulbright in a quarter century for LSUS. So it's been quite a while since we had one, and I think this is the second one in LSUS's history. In that sense, it's important way to showcase that LSUS has faculty members who can compete with it on a national, international level. So I think that's an important point to underscore. We have amazing faculty at LSUS. But on the personal level, again, this was a surprise because when I submitted the application, I knew how rigorous the process is and how it goes through multiple review points. And of course, you're competing with the best of the best on the national level. So because I got the U.S. Scholar, so this is a program that is designed to send American scholars abroad, and of course it's a very limited program, so that means there's a lot of competition. So I was surprised and delighted to receive it, especially because Fulbright allows you to have funding for 2 years to conduct research and to both gain understanding of a particular region, but also to share your experience with the students and scholars from that region. So in my particular case, it's the country of Georgia in the Caucasus, which I happen to be from. So that's a doubly
That's
wonderful
amazing.
experience. And so I was able to travel to Georgia, both to conduct research in the national and local archives in Georgia, because I have a big history book in works that will deal with the history of this region. But more importantly, it's a way to develop connections between LSUS and the local institutions. So I was able to be as a faculty member at one of the top universities in the Caucasus. There I delivered lectures, but also supervised graduate students. And so my hope is that the beginning, the seed that I planted of having this relationship will kind of grow and mature into something more meaningful. Hopefully, exchange programs where LSUS students can go to the region and attend maybe summer programs, or bringing students from Caucasus here as part of the exchange program. So, in many respects, the sky is the limit in terms of what we can accomplish. This is just the first step.
Absolutely, yeah, that's so amazing how it can just start with this and really expand to so much more. So that's an amazing opportunity, and congratulations for the honor as well. And
Thank you.
so, when you talk about the research that you're going to conduct, or that you've already began conducting, can you tell me a little bit more about that? What exactly
Mhm.
are you researching, and what can we expect from this new history book that you're
Yes.
working on?
So the Caucasus is a very complex region because of its diversity. It has more than 50 different ethnicities, linguists, speaking different, languages, cultural traditions, religions. And so what I'm hoping to accomplish is to produce a history of this region that will be not simply a book on one particular group of people, because we have histories of uh, Georgia or Armenia or Azerbaijan, but rather more holistically a history that intertwines these diverse threads into one narrative. And because I'm a historian of early modern period, I'm particularly interested in 18th century, and this is a period that not much has been written about, especially in English. There's a big gap. But it's a crucial period in the history of this region, because that's the moment when the region comes increasingly under the control of Russia, with massive consequences for both the local population, but also for the neighboring regions as well, since it's part of this kind of Russian expansion. But more equally interesting for me is the story of of this cultural flourishment, of the economic development of the region. So all of these strands will be connected in my book, and to do that, I need to conduct research in local archives. So I spend some time in national archives. I've traveled to the regional archives to see what they have in their storage, and then on the subsequent trips, I hope to expand broad, my visits to neighboring Armenia, Azerbaijan. Because of the political kind of hotspots, I will not be able to cross the Caucasus and go into the North Caucasus, but I think I'll try to find a way to bring the story of North Caucasus, of Circassians, of Chechens, of Dagestanis into the narrative, because they are part and parcel of the story.
It's truly amazing how you kind of mentioned this just a little bit ago, but how you experience it. You put your boots on the ground and conduct this research and kind of provide it as like a walking map for your students to show them this is how it's done, and kind of teach them, the process of, conducting your research and then being able to have the opportunity to write a history book like this. It's extremely interesting to hear your process. So to hear the back end of that, I feel like increases the curiosity of the minds of those who will be looking forward to reading the book. So
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
it's one thing to describe a place; it's different and to be there, to feel it, to smell it, to touch it.
Mm-hmm.
And especially this summer, while I was on Fulbright, I was delighted to welcome actually quite a few Shreveportians who came to see me, and so I was able to show them around and kind of show them history and the rich history and culture that is in the region. And so I hope that this kind of cross-cultural exchanges, not just only for students, but also for anyone interested in Shreveport, Bossier, will be able to come, and I'll be happy to take them on a tour, just give a talk, or tell them about the region that is very interesting, but also very important to the interest of the United States. The United States has been steadily investing in developing this region for the past 3 decades, and those listeners who are kind of following the events, they know that in recent years there's this is a region that is a hotspot of great power competitions by United States, China, Russia, Iran. All the interests kind of come into this one small corner of the world. So it's not just interesting to me because of its history and culture, but it's also because it's currently it's very important to our
Yeah.
national interests as well.
No, absolutely, and making definitely a great point there with those who are in Shreveport and Bossier who aren't just students but can have the opportunity to learn about the rich history across our globe, and you definitely providing that opportunity to bring that here locally. So thank you so much for your time and for all you do.
Thank you so much.
Of course. All right, you guys, for more details, you can see it all right here on ktalnews.com. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day and a happy 4th of July weekend. We'll see you next time.